August 15, 2025, China. On this day, China seemed to be driven to the brink. In Sichuan, floodwaters had already surged up to the second floor. Elderly people and children, in the pitch-black night, were forced to climb onto rooftops, waiting for rescue teams to arrive. Meanwhile, a new threat was closing in. Typhoon No. 12, Lingling, was expected to make landfall today. The sky was like a chaotic oil painting, smeared thick with oppressive and heavy dark clouds. The low-hanging clouds seemed ready to swallow the ground at any moment. In Fujian, a city once proud of its strict epidemic prevention measures, an ironic scene unfolded. Just after installing protective nets on drainage outlets to prevent the spread of disease by mosquitoes, the city was now submerged by a once-in-a-century downpour. Typhoon No struck head-on, leaving the water with no escape route. The streets instantly turned into torrents of muddy water, sweeping away trees, garbage, and the panic of residents. Yanglu was not just a storm, it was more like the ocean's fury unleashed from the coast of Fujian. The violent wind seemed as if they were about to tear the earth apart, and the rain poured down like an overturned waterfall, swallowing every road. Large areas were plunged into power outages, disaster prevention facilities were paralyzed, and coastal cities could only watch helplessly, as even higher waves pounded the seawalls. The sound of the wind mixed with people's cries for help, weaving together into a heart-pounding nightmare symphony. On an August morning, the Central Meteorological Observatory issued consecutive yellow alerts for heavy rain and blue alerts for strong convective weather. From the northeast and inner Mongolia to the Sichuan Basin, heavy rain and hail struck in succession. In some places, rainfall reached 150 millimeters in just a few short hours, and gales above force 8 could snap ancient trees in an instant. Villages in Guangdong, Guangxi, and Guizhou were swallowed by walls of rain. Before people had time to recover their composure, worse news followed. Lingling was brewing in the South China Sea, and Typhoon No. 13 was already approaching from east of the Philippines. Starting August 17th, more than 8 provinces were expected to endure 3 straight days of relentless downpours. In Guangxi, although the eye of Yanglu had already passed, its remaining cloud system still hung over the sky, like a heavy, damp quilt. Continuous rainfall caused landslides that blocked roads, leaving vehicles stranded in place. The land in northern Guangxi, Guangdong, and southern Hainan had already been saturated by days of rain, and just one more heavy downpour could trigger flash floods and landslides at any time. While the wounds of the south had yet to heal, the north was about to face a new onslaught. A displaced subtropical high was pushing thunderstorms and strong winds into northern China, making the air hot and humid like a giant steamer. The dew point exceeded 24 degrees Celsius, and even the northeast was enduring the stifling heat and humidity, which were expected to last for at least a week. Beijing, the political and economic center of China, has endured a rare test over the past half-month. On August 14, a sudden downpour brought urban flooding, flash floods, and landslides. Mian, Fangshan, and Huairou were transformed into vast stretches of water. Online footage showed vehicles submerged up to their windows, and streets where only streetlights and rooftops rose above the water. In the mountainous areas of Huairou, landslides sent thick mud pouring into valleys, sweeping away houses and trees. Many families, still recovering from the late July disaster that claimed 41 lives, were forced to evacuate once again. Roads were cut off, and electricity and communication in hundreds of villages had yet to be restored, while the new rains left no chance to catch a breath. The Sichuan basin and Chongqing were likewise mired in crisis. In the early morning, a wall of rain swept across Chengdu, Day, and Leshan, completely overwhelming the already fragile drainage systems. In Mianzhu's urban area, floodwaters rose to chest height within an hour. In Leshan, the Min River surged 12 meters in a single day, breaking historical records. Experts pointed out that this disaster was caused by the combination of the subtropical high and the remnants of Typhoon No, which formed a moisture channel directly toward the southwest. The southwest monsoon moisture collided with cold air from the north, locking rain clouds firmly over the Sichuan basin and turning it into a natural reservoir. Scenes from Chongqing were shocking. Floodwaters submerged the second floor. Residents climbed onto rooftops to wait for rescue. Cars on the streets were swept away like toys, and the entrance to dormitories was turned into a white waterfall by the torrents. In a village on the outskirts of Beijing, 2 elderly people and a child were trapped on the highest floor, each second feeling like an eternity. People lamented that there now seemed to be no absolutely safe place in China. From August to the 17th, Shandong was repeatedly hit by heavy rain and force 10 winds. Behind the numbers were the realities of roofs being torn off, and giant billboards weighing hundreds of kilograms being blown down by the wind. Even the tropical island province of Hainan went into defensive mode. It was expected that in August, a tropical depression would form in the South China Sea, bringing storms and heavy rain, sweeping from east to west. Fishing boats were ordered to change course, offshore platforms to avoid the storm zone, rice farmers to drain their fields, and rubber plantations to suspend tapping, to prevent an entire season's harvest from being destroyed. From north to south, China seemed to be locked in by rainstorms and floods. Behind the rainfall numbers flashing on the screen were millions of households without water or electricity, with roads cut off, and facing the threat of secondary disasters. No one could predict how much destruction Lingling and Typhoon No. 13 would bring. At this moment, continuous rain, violent winds, and floods had already pushed many provinces to their limits. Yet, the faint light in the darkness, the hands pulling others toward higher ground, and the brief messages sent through weak signals saying, "We are safe," all continued to prove that, however small, humanity has never stopped resisting nature. Thank you for watching. If you found this episode helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any disaster reports. Some footage is for illustration only and not from actual scenes. See you in the next program. Please stay tuned and stay safe.